All right, welcome to the Academy Recruits. Let's just dive right into this explainer because today we are tackling what is, without a doubt, the single most critical skill you are going to develop in your entire law enforcement career. We're going to master the IRAC Crime Report Blueprint. Now, out there on the streets, your physical actions obviously matter. You secure the scene, you keep people safe, but inside the courtroom, your written report is literally your sworn testimony. It is your ultimate legal voice. If it's not in the report, well, legally speaking, it simply didn't happen. And you have to keep in mind, a single omitted detail or even just a poorly phrased sentence can literally result in a massive case getting thrown out months or even in years down the line. Your report is the absolute foundation of the entire justice process. So I really want you to think about this question for a second. What is a police officer's most powerful weapon? You're probably thinking about your physical strength, maybe your tactical awareness, or your service weapon. But honestly, none of that matters at all if you can't write a legally defensible report. Your pen and your ability to articulate facts clearly on paper is what actually secures convictions. It's what protects your credibility. You could make the greatest, most heroic arrest of your career, but if you can't write it up properly, that suspect walks free. It's as simple as that.
Okay, here's our syllabus for today's boot camp. We'll be going over 1. Welcome to the Academy. 2. The Blueprint. 3. Foundation and Framing. 4. Walls and Roof. 5. Field Drill, Shoplifting. And finally, 6. Field Drill, Domestic Violence.
Section 1. Welcome to the Academy. The stakes of reporting.
Let's establish the absolute stakes of reporting right out of the gate. 6 months from now, when you are sitting up there on the witness stand, your memory of a chaotic Tuesday night shift is going to fade. That's just human nature, right? But a strong, highly detailed crime report, that permanently protects the facts of the case. It protects your partners and it protects your personal credibility. Just consider the difference between a vague description and a totally objective one. If you write something like, "He looked aggressive," a defense attorney is going to completely tear you apart in court. They'll stand right up and say, "Well, define aggressive, officer. Isn't that just your subjective opinion? Maybe my client was just scared." But instead, if you write, "He clenched his fists and stepped forward," boom. That is an observable, factual behavior. It literally cannot be twisted or debated. We do not editorialize, we simply document exactly what happened.
Moving on to Section 2, the Blueprint, building the IRAC house.
So, how do we actually structure all these facts so they form an unbreakable chain of logic? Well, we use a framework that prosecutors absolutely love to receive and defense attorneys absolutely hate to see, IRAC. It's an acronym that stands for Issue, Rule, Application, and Conclusion. This is a fundamental strategy used heavily throughout the legal field to break down really complex, chaotic incidents into a logical, super easy-to-read sequence. When you structure your crime reports using IRAC, you are literally speaking the exact same language as the judges and the attorneys who are going to be reading them. It gives the prosecution predictability, and it ensures that every single legal element of a crime has been checked off.
A really great way to visualize the IRAC format is to think of it like building a house. The issue? That's your foundation. It sets the stage and pours the concrete. The rule is your wooden frame, the specific law or policy that's involved. The application represents the walls. These are the facts, the statements, and all the evidence that fill in that frame. And finally, the conclusion is the roof that covers and completely seals the entire incident. Now think about it. If you build weak application walls by using vague language, the house is going to cave in under cross-examination. And if you forget your conclusion roof, your entire investigation is just left totally exposed to the elements.
Section 3. Foundation and Framing. The issue and the rule.
So, let's put on our hard hats and pour the concrete for our report. The issue section is all about methodically answering the fundamental questions the second you arrive at a scene. Step 1. Who is involved? And listen, you aren't just listing names here, you're establishing roles. Who exactly is the victim? Who's the suspect? Who's the witness? Be precise. Step 2. When did it happen? Time is absolutely crucial for establishing alibis and mapping out the sequence of events. A vague phrase like, "sometime in the evening," will totally destroy your timeline in court. You need to use military time. Step 3. Why are the police involved? This is basically the opening scene of your documentary. You don't jump to any conclusions here. You just simply state the context of the dispatch and what you found upon your immediate arrival. Establishing the who, when, and why grounds your reader right away.
I want you to listen to this perfectly executed issue statement.
On 7/14/2025 at 18:35 hours, Officer Smith responded to a theft report at 123 E Main Street. It is completely neutral. It is perfectly timestamped. Notice how it doesn't say it responded to a crime committed by John Doe. Right? That would be jumping the gun entirely. It sets the stage so the reader instantly understands the bare facts, the jurisdiction, and the initial reason for the law enforcement presence.
Okay, once that foundation is poured, we put up the frame, the rule. This is exactly where you cite the specific law, policy, or ordinance that governs the situation. For example, explicitly writing out California Penal Code 459.5 for shoplifting. And doing this does way more than just make you sound official. It actually creates a built-in checklist for the rest of your report. By citing the specific code, you're telling yourself, and the reader, exactly what legal elements you now need to prove in the very next section. It shows that your subsequent actions were guided by established law, not just some gut feeling you had.
Section 4. Walls and Roof. Application and Conclusion.
So with the foundation and frame locked in place, we transition to the heaviest lifting of the entire report, building the walls. The application section is where you take the hard facts of the incident and apply them directly to the legal rule you just established. You absolutely must integrate specific victim statements and physical evidence. For example, Jane Doe had visible swelling on her cheek. She stated her boyfriend punched her. This is a brilliant connection. It pairs a direct, objective observation, the swelling, with a quoted, spontaneous statement. It checks all the right boxes of the penal code. These are incredibly sturdy walls built on undeniable facts.
Finally, we put the roof on with the conclusion. This closes the loop of your entire narrative. You summarize the outcome, you state your probable cause clearly, and you document the specific action you took. What does that actually sound like in practice? Simply this. Based on the physical injuries and witness statements, I formed probable cause to arrest John Doe for battery. It leaves absolutely zero ambiguity about why you deprived someone of their freedom. Remember, a report without a conclusion is just an unfinished job.
Section 5. Field Drill. Shoplifting. Okay, recruits, call to attention. We're moving into our first practical exercise of this explainer. Imagine you're in your patrol vehicle. The radio crackles. Dispatch call. Shoplifting in progress at target. Subject bypass registers. Now, as you're driving there, mentally prepare to document the who, the when, and the why the literal second you step out of your cruiser. You're immediately gathering the raw materials to build your IRAC house. Keep your eyes sharp and keep your pen ready.
Now, let's methodically map this incident onto our blueprint. The issue, officer response to a theft report at Target. The rule, California Penal Code 459.5 regarding shoplifting. Now the application. This is where you put in the really hard work. You document that video surveillance clearly shows the suspect placing a 12-pack of beer in his bag and intentionally bypassing the final point of sale at the registers. Crucially, you also note that upon contact, he admitted he didn't intend to pay. You have now just proven intent, which honestly is often the hardest element of a theft crime to satisfy. Finally, the conclusion. Based on the video and the suspect's admission, probable cause is established, the suspect is placed under arrest, and the property is returned to the store. Notice how airtight and logical that flow is? Beautiful.
Section 6. Field Drill. Domestic Violence.
Let's level up a bit. We're moving to a much more complex field drill, a high-stakes domestic disturbance call. Here's your dispatch. Respond to 555 Oak Ave. Domestic disturbance, cohabitating adults, injuries reported. Listen, when you walk through that door, the scene is going to be incredibly chaotic. People are yelling, plates might be shattered on the floor, and emotions are running at an absolute peak. Your adrenaline is going to be pumping, but your analytical mind has to stay incredibly sharp. Every single detail must be filtered through a lens of absolute objectivity to be integrated into your report as cold, hard evidence. In all that chaos, there is a massive danger of losing your objectivity. If you let the raw emotion of the scene dictate your pen and you write something like, "The boyfriend was acting guilty," well, that is a subjective wall that will instantly cave in during cross-examination. A defense attorney will have an absolute field day with the word guilty. Instead, you write the objective truth. Officers observed broken glass in the kitchen and the suspect admitted to a verbal argument. See the difference? You are simply laying out the pieces of the puzzle. You show the court what happened. You do not tell them what to think. Let's complete the blueprint for this domestic violence case. Issue: response to 555 Oak for a domestic disturbance. Rule: Penal Code 273.5a, inflicting injury on a cohabitant. Application: we document the victim's visible injuries, specifically measuring and describing any bruising or lacerations. We document the broken glass, and we document the suspect's admissions. Conclusion:
We state the probable cause for the arrest. But remember, in a DV case, the conclusion often goes even further. We note that an emergency protective order was requested and issued. Explaining this step is critical. Documenting that protective order is a crucial final step for both your department's liability and, more importantly, for the victim's immediate safety. That strong conclusion fully justifies your lawful actions.
Before we wrap up this boot camp, I need you to memorize the 4 core tenets of effective report writing. We call them the 4 C's. Your report must be clear. For instance, use the word intoxicated, not wasted. It must be concise. Get straight to the point without redundant fluff or rambling, totally unnecessary narratives. It must be complete. Every single element of the IRAC format we just discussed has to be present and accounted for. And finally, it must be correct. That means absolutely flawless grammar, the proper laws cited accurately, and a total commitment to objective truths.
So, as we conclude this explainer, I want to leave you with this final, vital question. How are you going to document your next scene? Will you leave it vague, messy, and wide open to the ruthless interpretation of a defense attorney? Or are you going to build an absolute fortress using the IRAC blueprint? Remember, your report is your legacy, on paper. It outlasts your shift and it outlasts your memory. Make it count. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next explainer.